podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. Because every situation is unique, you should consult with a qualified legal professional for advice specific to your circumstances. If you need legal guidance, please reach out to an accredited attorney or contact us to schedule a consultation. Hello, and welcome back to the Veteran Benefits Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Deming. Today, we are going to be diving into a subject that has gotten a lot of internet buzz recently. There have been reports that the government is potentially going to be releasing files related to MKUltra, also maybe some alien files. We'll see what actually gets released from the government and what the truth is behind some of these files. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how participation in secret government programs can impact your VA claims. So with the renewed buzz around MKUltra, it has people digging through Cold War era files. But for some of these veterans, it's not just historical claims or myths or conspiracy theories, but the secrecy around the programs that they participated in really impacted their ability to file for VA disability claims. MKUltra has become shorthand for secret government experimentation. The MKUltra files are actually related to allegedly CIA experimentation on U.S. service members and civilians. But there is another program that was being conducted around the same time that has been publicly acknowledged called Edgewood. And so the Edgewood facility in Maryland was used during Cold War. They actually brought in former Nazi chemists and scientists to help run experiments on volunteer soldiers. They involved psychoactive substances, nerve agents, incapacitating chemicals, and apparently they were trying to figure out if there were certain chemical agents that could be used in warfare that were non-lethal that could incapacitate the enemy or be used as a truth serum. I think LSD was used for some of them, but most of the participants were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements or secrecy agreements. These studies were highly classified for a number of years. So what that does is it really impacts people's ability to file VA claims because either they have to violate the secrecy oath, and even if they violate that secrecy oath, the government's not going to confirm and substantiate their claims of what happened. So even if they did go forward with that and risk prosecution for violating the secrecy oath, it would be really hard to prove that the traumas that they experienced happened because the government's hiding the files. So what happened there was a case called Taylor v. McDonough. And in that case, Taylor was one of the volunteer participants in the Edgewood experiments. So he volunteered to participate in some of these psychoactive substances and chemical agents. And he later developed PTSD, but he never filed a claim for PTSD with the VA until very recently. And so initially VA said, okay, and it was after the Edgewood experiments were finally declassified. So once they were declassified, he went ahead and filed his claim, and VA ended up granting him PTSD, but they gave him an effective date of the day that he filed the claim. So he appealed, and ultimately he won at the federal circuit. He won his claim for an earlier effective date because the court said that the government can't force you into secrecy and then penalize you for not being able to file the claim. So they ended up awarding him benefits going all the way back to the first day after he separated from service, which ended up being decades worth of back pay. And so for those of you who aren't tracking how VA awards benefits, the effective date is based on either the date entitlement arose, so usually the date that you become disabled or the disability manifests to a compensable level, or the date that you first started the claim, whichever is later. Usually, if you file a claim within 1 year of getting out of service, the effective date can go back to your first day after active service. But in Mr. Taylor's case, he wasn't able to file his claim within that first year of getting out of service because the activities he participated in were still classified. They were still top secret. So he couldn't share what happened. So he just dealt with his PTSD. I don't even think he was able to get treatment for it for all those years. And so when he finally filed the claim and it was granted, and VA said, okay, well, now we're only going to pay you going back a couple of years because that's how long you've been pursuing your claim. He was able to appeal and get the courts to award him back pay going back decades to the 1970s, I believe. The Edgewood programs ran from approximately 1948 to 1975. And there were thousands of service members who participated in this. I think there were somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 service members who participated in the Edgewood experiments. We also have a lot of veterans who participate in other government programs, other government initiatives, and they're forced to sign secrecy oaths. And so depending on what your disability is, you can still file a claim without violating the secrecy oath. There are ways to file claims that kind of allude to what happened without revealing secret information. And VA has mechanisms, and we can help work through those with you to have their researchers verify participation in a secret initiative or a secret mission without revealing all the top secret information contained in that mission. So you can typically go ahead and file, but if you waited to file, or if you are waiting to file until a mission is declassified or an experiment is declassified or a program is declassified, and then you file, it would be really helpful to rely on this Taylor case and force the government to pay benefits going all the way back to when you got out of service if your secrecy oath prevented you from filing your claim to begin with. So the Taylor case is established law. VA has to apply that to veterans that are prevented from filing their claim. It's actually a constitutional issue. It's a constitutional right to pursue the benefits that that the secrecy oath was interfering with. Government action was interfering with the constitutional right to pursue claims for benefits. So the lesson to be learned from Edgewood and from MKUltra is not just that secret programs exist or that conspiracies are real or what have you, but it's that when our veterans participate in secret activities, the effects of those secret activities can follow them for decades, and VA is required to acknowledge that and to not penalize veterans for waiting to file claims simply because they were trying to observe their oath of secrecy. So if you did participate in a top secret activity that resulted in disabilities or PTSD, and you've been avoiding filing a claim, you might want to reach out to a legal professional. You might want to go ahead and get a claim filed, and we would love to help work with you guys to unravel that and, without violating any existing secrecy oaths, help you get the benefits that you're entitled to. So I hope you found this helpful and interesting. Please like and subscribe, add any questions to the comments or suggestions for new topics, and we will see you next time.